Yesterday, we touched briefly about North Korea's recent proposal of high-level talks with the U.S. in our Hot Comments portion of the show. North Korea has said that the discussion would be aimed at easing tensions and discussing nuclear disarmament. The proposal, which surprised the international community, comes after months of threats by North Korea to wage nuclear war. North Korea's National Defense Commission, led by leader Kim Jong-un, is the country's powerful governing body. It apparently wants to make room for talks, but not without the following conditions: that North Korea will not be demanded to give up its prized nuclear assets, unless, of course, the U.S. will do the same. Now, Washington says that while it's open for talks, North Korea will need to live up to international obligations and show that it's willing to comply with UN Security Council resolutions. Here in China, domestic media outlets have been using the phrase active but cautious to describe the U.S. attitudes towards the proposal. The topic has sparked heated discussion in the Chinese online community, as always happens when stories about North Korea make headlines. Now, to hear what's being said, we're joined by our researcher Esther Dung in the newsroom. Hi, Esther. Now, what's been net users' first reactions to hearing about North Korea's proposal to open talks with the U.S.? What are you hearing?
Hi, Steffi. I have to say that there's indeed quite a range of opinions based on what I've seen. First, many posters are quite surprised to hear the news, like 一笑而过 on QQ.com, who says, "If my memory serves me right, not long ago North Korea clamored to close the door for dialogue forever. Now it's proposing to have a dialogue with the U.S." While for a considerable number of others, it's hardly news. For example, Yin Shouguo says on Weibo.com, "North Korea is a country without any principles, and nobody knows what it's going to do next. So never take its words seriously." And plenty of posters are sharing their knowledge of North Korean diplomatic strategies. For example, this poster Wang Xuanfeng expresses a common sentiment, saying, "In terms of diplomacy, Kim Jong-un is too childish. He makes a promise in the morning and then breaks it before nightfall. The nuclear tests have made China unhappy, and then tries to get some support from the U.S. What a scoundrel." But some others are more positive, like this poster 胖子变瘦的心, who comments, "North Korea is smart. It knows that nobody dares to wage a war easily, so it keeps playing farces to make the U.S. and South Korea anxious. Now it's tired of these farces and wants to talk to the U.S., and the U.S. has to respond." And 无能为力 from Mao Ming agrees. "I admire North Korea a lot, actually, since there's very few countries in the world that can make the U.S. compromise." Last but not least, lots of posters bring China into the discussion. First, have a listen to this poster, who says, "So it again bypasses China and communicates with the U.S. directly. In North Korea's eyes, China is nothing but a stupid big brother. When it needs money and food, it will turn to China. But when they conduct nuclear tests and the smuggling of drugs along our borders, they never care about what China thinks." And finally, Xianyu on QQ.com adds, "North Korea is always so self-important. Offending China will do no good."
Esther, what do net users think are the reasons behind this sudden move? Do they think that North Korea actually wants to have a conversation with the U.S., which has been long considered as its #1 enemy?
Well, as for reasons, posters here have plenty to say. This poster on QQ.com has this analysis. At first, North Korea was quite tough in terms of confronting the U.S., Japan, and South Korea. But little by little, it has found this confrontation exhausting. Then it sent a special envoy to China, but it seems it failed to get any promises from Chinese leaders. So now North Korea is pissed off. The meeting between South Korea and North Korea had also fallen through. So now North Korea wishes to talk directly to South Korea's boss, the U.S. And this poster on Xinhuanai.com says, "North Korea is trying to woo the U.S. and to get rid of its isolation. It is also trying to create a good appearance for its coming 65th anniversary of the country's foundation, as well as the 60th anniversary for the victory of the Korean War." Well, some think North Korea is sending some signals to China. Ji Xiaodong writes on his or her blog, "North Korea is putting on a play to China, its biggest donor, and the purpose is to get food, oil, etc."
Well, reasons aside, do net users really think that this talk will take place? And what results do they expect should discussions happen?
Well, based on the comments I've seen, the majority of Chinese net users don't hold optimistic views. First, we have this take. North Korea thinks that the U.S. troops in South Korea always threaten it and it has to increase its military power, including nuclear weapons. And it insists that it won't give up nuclear weapons unless the U.S. follows suit. But the U.S. says the premise for any diplomatic progress between both countries is that North Korea abandons its nuclear weapons. So there are plenty of obstacles in terms of having a conversation between both countries. This gesture is more symbolic than having any real meaning. But still, there's a possibility that the dialogue will happen. And this poster says on Sina.com, frictions between both countries never cease, but never has communication. So we can predict that even if the talk does take place, it will be nothing serious, but just for show.
Now, last question here, Esther. Do net users think North Korea will give up its nuclear weapons?
The majority of posters I've seen don't believe it at all. First, we have this poster on WSG.com. The 3 generations of the Kim family, or at least 2 generations, feel eager to talk to the U.S. one-on-one. Their purpose is not to improve North Korean people's standards of living or to promote peace in the northwest part of Asia. Instead, they want the U.S. to give diplomatic recognition to its ownership of nuclear weapons. And Zhang Liangui has this to say on 163.com. Back in 2009, when Kim Jong-un was still in office, North Korea put forward a C plan, and its purpose was to make North Korea a permanent nuclear power. And there are also a certain number of posters who find no point to all the criticism about North Korea and its possession of nuclear weapons. I'll finish up with this comment from a poster named Lao Shui 00. Over the past 6 decades, the U.S. has sent troops to South Korea, Japan, and other Asian countries. Has Asia ever been at peace? North Korea has the reason to have nuclear weapons since the U.S. always threatens it, and North Korea feels it can't rely on China to protect it.
Thanks, Esther, for that. And that was China Take researcher Esther Dung with reactions to potential dialogue between the U.S. and North Korea. Next up on China Take, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.